Good morning, everybody. I think this inclusive growth as a subject, which has assumed a great importance these days, is actually there for quite some time. I think till 19th centuries, most of the people and most of the nations were poor. There were only few rulers who were rich. And it's only the Industrial Revolution which changed the things. And with the distribution of wealth, you had developed nations, but even amongst the nations, there was a disparity, and in the developed nations also, there was a difference between the poor and the rich. So I don't think this is a new subject. Why it has assumed the importance today is because the disparity, as one sees many times, has been growing, and there is a lot of unrest, there is a lot of left-wing extremism which has come in. You find certain states, and I am not referring to terrorism here, I am just talking of difference between the poor and the rich, and that's what is happening, and that is what has given a lot of importance to this subject. In India, if we just reflect, till 1980s, we had a controlled economy, growth rate was 3.5%, later on it has gone up to 5.5, and last 3 years we are at 8. And in this period, we find lots of changes. We have the poverty, the new millennium goal, we have already crossed that 10 years ahead of schedule. Lots of improvements in education, health standards, everything has happened. But if you see the distribution system, that has not really gone up to the level what we wanted. At one time, I think it was Rajiv Gandhi who mentioned that not even 15% of the aid which is given is actually reaching to the people whom it is meant for. Maybe it is 15, maybe it is 25, but it's a very inefficient system. So that's something we certainly need to improve. But before we come to that, I think the most important thing for the inclusive growth is there are certain attributes. And these attributes is something, if we don't address quickly, we will not be able to achieve the results what we have to achieve. The attributes are opportunity, security, then capability and access. Many times you will find that unless you have opportunities, capability, access to those opportunities and capability, and a security, that is, on certain days you can be without a earning potential, but still you will manage. I think these are the attributes for the inclusive growth. And as you go along, what are the things which will help us to achieve those? One, and the primary most important, is the education. The second is employability, and third is infrastructure. I think these are the three things. If we are able to get our act together well, we will achieve what we are setting out to be. Education, I think, and I would like to quote Mr. Galbraith here, who said that if you find I don't want to have exact quote, but what he said was that if you have the educated society, in an educated society you will hardly find a poor, and you will hardly find a uneducated person who is not poor. I think that was the theme of his speech, and this is very, very true in our country. Over a period, what has happened is education has gone down to the villages. There are some elite schools, not so elite schools, but has it reached the real down society of the country? If you see the statistics, the scheduled caste, scheduled tribe rate is still low, and the dropout rates are high. There is a literacy, but there is hardly any education. Between the two, even the dropout rate of the women are a little higher. So these are the issues which are causing a great disparity in education. Same thing in terms of employment opportunities. There are certain states, let's say like Gujarat, where lots of entrepreneurs, lots of opportunities. Government is also trying to improve the situation by giving thrust on the manufacturing sector. But as a result, total package if we see, we don't see employability improving the way in a countries like Germany, where majority of the employment is helped by the SMEs, not by the big industrial houses. So this is the way employability needs to be improved, and that's where small entrepreneurs, apart from a big industry, has a major role to play. Lastly, when it comes to infrastructure, I think power and roads, etc., everybody is familiar. But one thing I think which all of us need to worry is the water, because the water table everywhere is going down, and as we become a prosperous nation, people will require more water, the industries will grow, industries will require more water, and if we are not able to look at this problem with utmost seriousness today, I think next 10 years we have a very, very serious issue on our hand. So that comes to the infrastructure. I would just like to now mention what Tata Group or Tata Steel is trying to do in inclusive growth and whatever are our efforts. I think the principles are very simple, which are the founders' principles, which was give back to the society many times more what you have taken from it, and the society is the very purpose of the industry. I think these were very profound statements, and the group still follows them in principle, and the founder had the vision to set up a steel plant more than 100 years back, and that was his dream, and these principles are followed there even today, and it has made difference to many, many lives in that part of the country and rest of the country as well. The Tata Group actually operates through the Trust and Tata Relief Committee, and so far as Tata Steel is concerned, we operate through, we have few societies like Tata Steel Rural Development Society, Tata Steel Tribal Cultural Society, the Family Planning Institute, and Tata Sports Club, Tata Steel Sports Club. On these 4 pillars, we reach to the people and do try to make difference to their lives. How it is done is that the thrust is on the education and employability, sustainable livelihood, and third is the sports. And let me start with the sports, because in our part of the country, the tribal community is very good in soccer and in archery. And these are the 2 we chose to promote. We pick up children at a young age from the school, and I am very proud to say that in the last Commonwealth Games and in Asian Games, reasonable level of gold medals have come from these 2 institutes. And so far as soccer is concerned, in football, I think we have some 8 or 10 Arjuna Award winners from our Tata Football Academy. Coming to education, apart from helping and running many schools and giving lots of scholarships to the scheduled caste and the scheduled tribe children, we have now recently started a special initiative, PPP partnership with Government of Jharkhand and ISKCON, to have a midday meal scheme for 1 lakh children a day. I think this scheme should see at least the children around Jamshedpur in the government schools and those who are below the poverty line improve their education levels a lot. Coming back to sustainability and medical help, there are teams through these societies who work a lot, and the education standards, health standards around the areas where we operate, not only Jamshedpur but mines, collieries everywhere, are better than the state average or the national average, many times more. What I am trying to say is that if you have the will, if you have the societies who will do things, I think you can still make a lot of difference if you set out to do something about it. Lastly, what I wanted to mention was that today there are plenty of rules. There is something of 2% of your profit should go here, 26% should go there. I think that's okay. You can take out something, keep something. What is most important is if you don't have passion to do it well, I don't think one can achieve it. And I would just like to give a small story about our first chairman, Mr. Sir Dorab Tata, because he was concerned about the medical and health situation around Jamshedpur in 1912. And what does he do? He invites a professor of public administration from London School of Economics, who comes here, who studies here the situation, gives a report. The report is also quite unique, I must say that, because it doesn't talk of, it differentiates between the medical officer and the welfare officer. These are the 2 different things. And also insists not only on the medical treatment, but the data one collects from that treatment and how does one eliminate the root cause. I think it's quite a different kind of a report. He spent about 3-4 months along with his wife. That professor happened to be Professor Sidney Webb and Beatrice Webb, the couple who later on went on to win the Nobel Prize. Now imagine in 1912 to get a person of that caliber, make him spend time in Jamshedpur, spend all that money just to improve the medical standards of the city. I think that's the kind of passion. If you don't have, these compulsions will not get us anywhere. I think that's the message I would like to leave around the table. Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir.